Thank you to Aspiration for sponsoring today's video. Hello and welcome to Abundantly Minimal. My name is Sarah, and on this channel before we've talked a lot about different ways to live a more minimal and intentional life. One of the ways to do that comes from a minimalist approach to finance. And this can look like a lot of different things, such as living within your means, setting a budget that works for yourself, saving towards your financial goals, preventing impulse purchases, as well as voting with your dollars, or essentially supporting the businesses and organizations that align with your values. And personally for me, these values are about creating a more sustainable and just world. However, there is a larger ethical issue at play that goes far beyond what we are choosing to spend our money on and where we spend. We need to look more closely at how we save our money, and specifically where we save it. I must admit that until recently, I hadn't really taken the time to understand how my bank was using my money. And from what I discovered, there is a good chance that your bank could be using your money to fund fossil fuel projects that destroy the climate. This is possible because your money doesn't just sit in the bank. Banks are allowed to use 100% of their customers' deposits as collateral for lending and investing. And they've already contributed $3.8 trillion of this money to fossil fuels since 2016. These banks also invest heavily in political lobbying, private prisons, and gun manufacturing, to name a few. Later in the video, I'll be getting into specifics about the 10 worst banks in the world, as well as how much harm they're causing. But if you are ready to align your finances with your values, I highly recommend that you check out today's sponsor, Aspiration. Aspiration is a digital banking alternative that will never invest your money in fossil fuel projects or other harmful industries. They are a B-certified corporation and are fully insured and regulated like a bank, which makes them as safe as any bank to keep your money in. They are a member of 1% for the Planet and also donate 10% of their profits to charity. Aspiration has no overdraft, maintenance, or other predatory fees. They also have an opt-in Plant Your Change program that allows their customers to plant a tree on every purchase by rounding their purchase up to the nearest dollar. Over 6 million trees have already been planted so far. Their Aspiration Plus account offers up to 10% cash back on socially conscious spending and features carbon offsets for all of your gas purchases. If you are ready to align your finances with your values, check out the link below to get $50 when you sign up, or visit joinaspiration.com/abundantly-minimal. Now let's talk about specific banks and what they are funding. All of my information comes from Rainforest Action Network's 2021 resource, an 80-page document that I have linked below. In 2020 alone, JP Chase was the bank that contributed the most to fossil fuels, with a total of $51.3 billion going towards fossil fuel financing. It was less this year than in the past years, but total they have funded $317 billion to fossil fuels in the last 5 years, making them the worst bank overall in the world for fossil fuel funding. Close behind JP Chase is US Bank Citi, with $48.4 billion going towards fossil fuels in 2020. Another US bank, Bank of America, contributed the third most amount of $42.1 billion. The fourth spot goes to BNP Paribas in France, with $40.8 billion in 2020 alone. This is actually a 41% increase from the previous year, while many of these other banks did experience a decrease. Fifth place, ICBC from China with $29.5 billion. In sixth place, MUFG in Japan with $29.1 billion. Number 7, SMBC Group with $28.2 billion. In eighth place, Barclays from the UK with $27.7 billion. In ninth place, Wells Fargo from the US with $26.4 billion. They did have a major decline in 2020 in their fossil fuel investments. However, they are still the world's top fracking funder. And in 10th place, HSBC from the UK with $23.5 billion going towards fossil fuel projects. This was all 2020 data, but when we look at the last 5 years, as you can see on this graphic, you can see how the 12 worst banks rank overall with their fossil fuel contributions. And as I mentioned before, JP Morgan Chase is the worst one, leading this group by 33%. And obviously this is not something that you want an organization to be leading. This pie chart is also helpful as it breaks down the fossil fuel financing over the last 5 years, but with a regional breakdown. We can see that this is a widespread issue, but US banks and European banks are the biggest contributors. I know this information is very frustrating because as you and I are trying to make choices in our own lives that are more sustainable and intentional, these banks and financial institutions are harming the planet and causing a much bigger impact that can undermine our own efforts. It's quite upsetting to think that every time we're swiping our debit card or credit card or funding different investments that we could be causing more harm than good. The good news is that more and more people are speaking up about this and changing the way they manage their finances. While I know this feels like there's a lot stacked against us, the more people who continue to make changes and speak out against what's happening here, the more likely we're going to see changes. Ultimately, banks are businesses too, and if they're losing their customers because of these different issues in what they're funding, that is going to force them to make more changes. If you do decide to leave your bank, make sure you speak up to them about this issue and why you're leaving, just so we can get that on record and help them realize the specific reasons why you're leaving and that they need to do better. I want to give another huge thanks to Aspiration for sponsoring this video. If you are looking to put your money where your values are, join Aspiration today. Don't forget to take advantage of the special offer for Abundantly Minimal viewers, clicking the link in the top of my description to get $50 when you sign up. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope you found the topic as eye-opening as I did when I first heard about it. Consider subscribing to the channel up here if you're new, and I've got some other financial related videos here. We'll see you next time. Bye.